Peter Tosh did not leave the world quietly. He left it sharpened. Long after the music fades, his voice still feels like a warning siren, deep, unbending, impossible to ignore. Peter Tosh's legacy is not simply reggae. It is resistance pressed into melody, defiance carved into rhythm. He sang for those who had no microphone, confronted power without flinching, and refused to soften his truth for comfort or applause. Yet behind the militant stance and uncompromising glare was a man shaped early by abandonment, struggle, and a lifelong fight to be seen as human, not owned, not silenced, not erased. Born Winston Hubert McIntosh on October 19, 1944, in Westmoreland, Jamaica, Tosh entered the world already navigating absence. His mother, Alvera Koch, ensured he was raised with a strict Christian foundation. She placed him in the church choir, guided his hands over the organ keys, and unknowingly gave him his first training as a musician. His father, James McIntosh, a local preacher who fathered many children, refused to acknowledge him. The rejection was not symbolic, it was total. James McIntosh played no role in his son's life, leaving Tosh with questions that would later harden into ideology. Though his father had other children, Tosh grew up effectively alone. He was the only child in his household, raised primarily by an aunt in Grange Hill, Westmoreland, after being separated from both parents. That early loneliness etched itself into him. It taught him self-reliance, sharpened his independence, and planted the seeds of the defiant spirit the world would later know as the stepping razor. Music became both refuge and rebellion. With no formal training, Tosh taught himself by watching. He would sit for hours observing a local guitarist, memorizing finger placements as if committing scripture to heart. When he finally touched the instrument, the knowledge was already inside him. Guitar, keyboard, percussion, he absorbed them instinctively, guided by hunger rather than instruction. His formal education ended early. By the age of 15, Tosh understood that survival came before certificates. He attended school in Bluefields, Westmoreland, where church life doubled as a musical apprenticeship. Singing hymns and playing the organ were not performances, they were discipline. They trained his ear, his timing, and his sense of purpose. In his mid-teens, Tosh left the countryside behind and moved to Trenchtown, Kingston, a place where poverty and possibility lived side by side. The concrete lanes hummed with rhythm, desperation, and ambition. It was there that he met Bob Marley and Bunny Wailer, three young men bound by circumstance and belief. Under the informal mentorship of Joe Higgs, who offered free vocal lessons to neighborhood youth, Tosh's raw talent was refined. Higgs taught harmony, breath control, and musical discipline, but Tosh brought the fire. In 1963, the trio formed the Wailers. In the group's early days, Tosh was its backbone. Technically skilled and musically confident, he taught Marley how to play guitar and helped shape the band's sound. His baritone voice added gravity, his lyrics carried historical weight, and his presence commanded attention. Songs like 400 Years, No Sympathy, and Get Up, Stand Up bore his fingerprints, messages that refused to soothe or entertain without awakening. But as the band grew, so did the fractures. When Island Records began centering Bob Marley as the face of the group, Tosh felt sidelined. He accused label founder Chris Blackwell, whom he derisively renamed White Worst, of turning reggae into a marketable image while muting its radical soul. By 1974, the tension was unbearable. Tosh walked away from the Wailers, choosing isolation over invisibility. Freedom came at a cost, but it also came with clarity. In 1976, Tosh released Legalize It, a debut solo album that doubled as a manifesto. The title track was banned from Jamaican radio, yet it traveled the world anyway, becoming an anthem for cannabis legalization and personal freedom. His next album, Equal Rights, cemented his image as reggae's most militant voice. Tosh did not perform politics, he lived them. At the 1978 One Love Peace concert, while politicians sat comfortably in the front row, Tosh took the stage and dismantled them with words. For nearly half his set, he delivered a blistering speech condemning political corruption and oppression. Then, in open defiance, he lit a marijuana joint on stage. The consequences were brutal. Shortly after the concert, police arrested him and beat him for nearly 30 minutes, leaving him with a fractured skull and a broken arm. Tosh survived, but the message was clear. Speaking truth carried violence. Still, he refused to retreat. Signing with Rolling Stones Records in 1978 expanded his reach. His collaboration with Mick Jagger, You Gotta Walk, Don't Look Back, introduced him to new audiences, but Tosh never softened his stance. Albums like Bush Doctor, Mystic Man, and Mama Africa continued to confront apartheid, nuclear warfare, and global injustice. He wore a Palestinian keffiyeh on stage, rejected performances in apartheid-linked nations, and performed with a guitar shaped like an M16 rifle, calling his songs musical bullets. Offstage, his life was equally complex. He loved deeply and lost painfully. His girlfriend Yvonne Whittingham died in a car accident in 1973, an event that left him emotionally scarred. His long-term partner, Andrea Marlene Brown, stood by him until the end and survived the attack that killed him. Tosh fathered 10 children, leaving behind a living legacy. Among them were Andrew Tosh, who carries his father's voice and spirit into modern reggae, Nyambe McIntosh, now the administrator of his estate, and Jawara Tosh I McIntosh, whose tragic death in 2020 echoed the family's enduring pain. Despite his global influence, Tosh died without a will. His estate, his intellectual property, music, and image became the subject of decades-long legal battles. The man who declared, "I am not a property," was, in death, turned into one. On September 11, 1987, Peter Tosh was murdered in his home on Barbican Terrace, Kingston, during an attempted robbery led by Dennis Lepo Labin, a man Tosh had once helped. After hours of captivity, Tosh was shot twice in the head. He died at the scene. 2 of his friends were also killed. The official story called it robbery. Many still believe it was something darker. His final album, No Nuclear War, won a Grammy Award in 1988, after his death. In 2012, Jamaica awarded him the Order of Merit, acknowledging what the world already knew. Peter Tosh was not easy. He was not polite. He was not safe. But he was necessary, and his voice, sharp as a blade, still cuts through silence.